I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we are talking to a woman who is the author behind an award-winning series of books that are just fantastic. They are called The Great Adventures of Kurt, Gert, Jazmine, and Bagel. Let's say a big hello to Irene Dolnick, who is joining us here today live. Irene, thanks so much for being on our show here on Spotlight.
And thank you for having me, because I know you're a very clay person, having done a wonderful series with Tom Selleck in Blue Bloods and Kevin Spacey. So thank you for having me.
They're great guys. I'm in great company today as well, so I appreciate it. I love your series of books. They're so imaginative. And what I like best about them is that they're focused on dogs. I think dogs really connect with children, don't you?
They really do, especially mine with all their antics. And it's just amazing the connection that children have with pets or dogs.
Exactly, exactly. Now, this started out in an unusual way. Tell me the story behind Kurt, Gert, Jazmine, and Bagel.
Well, this series was created in the Quincy City Library near Boston. So as I was sitting in the cafe, I was writing down my first book. I didn't know it was my first book at the time, but I was just writing, you know, the hook and the introduction, and then all the napkins fell on the floor. So I panicked. I said, how am I going to find all these napkins and piece them back together so that I've got a logical sequence? Well, it did happen. So I was able to then type these paragraphs into my friend's computer, and that began the miracle of in an award-winning series, and then the 2 film awards for best screenplay for A Halloween Nightmare.
Right, right. So that's wonderful. It's funny because a lot of authors actually use index cards where they will shuffle it around in order to mix up the story. So this was kind of inadvertent, but it worked out perfectly.
Yes,
and one book has led to 5 books so far. Tell me about the series a little bit. Who are, for the folks who haven't read it yet, Kurt, Gert, Jazmine, and Bagel?
Well, Kurt, Jazmine, Bagel are the actual names of my dogs. Mm-hmm. And I really created the series from their antics, just watching them and having them dig holes in the back to my siding. So a lot of this is in different books. And so that's how the name Kurt, Jazmine, Bagel happened to be on my list of names for the books. And it's just been, intriguing just to watch them act like people in their little mischievous ways. And then, of course, connect with my two foster kids. And, the series continues. And so I'm happy to learn from my dogs.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, you also learn from children because part of it was during your work in the El Paso School District as well. Tell me about that.
Yes. Well, I got my master's degree from Capella University, and I worked in Rhode Island as a teacher. I wasn't certified because I was getting my master's at the time. And then an illness brought me back to El Paso, where I grew up, and I worked in the schools. So as the first and second books were created, I actually tested them in the schools that I was in. So I changed some of the formatting that was recommended to me by the students. And let me give you an example. In the first book, I've got a Control R pronunciation key for some of the words, like you are is a vowel next to the R. So you kind of skip the pronunciation of a vowel and go right to Kurt, K-R-T. And I put the pronunciation underneath the word. And I had this approved by the kids. For the second book, they recommended putting the pronunciation next to the word with a dictionary at the bottom. So then that's what I did. And the series just continued with recommendations from the kids in the schools. And at the time, the reading level was a little different than it is now. So it's not so much about teaching kids how to read, although that's your primary focus, but it's also developing critical thinking skills so that kids can problem solve any issue that they have in math or science, or even daily issues like, what do I wear and what is the sequence of my choices for what I wear today? So that's the purpose of reading, is developing strategies for pronunciations and then for logical sequence of problem solving.
Absolutely. And you have to draw them in first, of course.
Yes,
And
of
that's
course,
where your
yes.
characters and lively settings come in. And I think you've done that effectively. You've centered it around
Thank you.
holidays. You've centered it around
Yes.
all types of activities that kids find flat out fun.
Yes, that's what I did. I actually added some activities at the end of the books, so they're not only able to read the books and then follow up with some activities that are associated with the characters for that particular book.
Tell me about your views on the school system today. Do you feel the schools are failing our kids a little bit? Do you feel like they're getting better? I mean, everybody thinks school was better back when they went to school.
I know, really, that's so true.
But I don't know, kids seem to learn differently today. They have different resources in front of them. I say I would have been a straight A student if I had a computer, you know, because all the answers are on Google. And now Google even corrects the way you write. So
Yes, yes.
It's a changing world. Tell me what your
Yes, it is.
viewpoint is on the school systems today.
Well, I think that the schools certainly have enough tools, and the teachers are doing the best that they can to help students succeed. So I don't think the problem is there. I think it's in teaching to the test. So the focus of the classroom is designing a curriculum that teaches kids how to pass a test. And in that strategy, the kids are getting anxious. So not only are they creating a new problem of, anxiety, and this follows the student all throughout their school life. And it's unfortunately that's the loss. So that's the major problem that I see, because all my friends are teachers. So I see the struggle that they have and the inattention, that the kids have, especially post-COVID. And it's not the best teaching environment, but it's what is.
Exactly.
So,
It's a distracted world right now. We all have
yes,
phones
yes,
that
that's
seem
so
to
true.
like charge our brains, and they're not necessarily teaching us or showing us how to think effectively. And that's where books come in.
Yes.
I also feel that
Yes.
what's important about your work is that it's a connection for parents and children, because schools are great, but I don't think anything replaces a parent sitting down with his or her child at night and reading a story with them.
I think you're absolutely right. I know, as I mentioned before, I've got 2 foster kids, and one of my children is 4 years old. And because of his autism, he finds it very difficult to just sit down and read. But luckily the other day he brings me a book. He says, "Can you please read me the book?" And it was one of my books. And I said, "Yes,
Wonderful.
here, what do you think this character's doing? Why do you think he's doing it?" So then, you bring the reading strategies in and the critical thinking that helps them to solve problems in the next grade, which is kindergarten. So
Absolutely.
So yes,
Absolutely.
I think that connection is very important, especially today where everything moves so quickly, and just finding the time for a parent to spend with their child is so important.
Absolutely, because we not only have distracted children, we have distracted
Yes.
parents now.
Yes,
We've got to wrestle
yes.
the phones out of parents' hands at dinner
Mm-hmm.
time, at bedtime, when they should be
Exactly.
interacting with their child. It's a strange addiction that many of us suffer from, that we rather be on that phone than connecting with a person. So it's a problem.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about your illustrations. They're lovely. And who are
thank
your
you.
artists?
Well, the first book was someone that was new to me, and I love her illustrations. The subsequent books are done by local high school students because, as I mentioned, I work in the school. So I asked the high school students who wanted to help me out with particular books, and so I had Luis Martinez, who did the illustration for A Halloween Nightmare, and then Leslie Cabral, who did the illustrations for Kirker Jazmine Bagel, A Search for the Gold Bone, and then Santa Chase's Hot Dogs. So they're local illustrators, and we work with each other to this day, and they're helping me create new things.
That's wonderful. I love how you have incorporated young people into your work, because it gives it an energy and a different perspective than
Yes.
you and I might have, for sure.
Yes, exactly.
You've branched out into screenwriting as well. So you've started
Yes.
out with these children's books. Now it's screenwriting. Tell me a little bit about that work.
Well, that's really an interesting question, because screenwriting was something that I always wanted to do. And when the subject came up, I focused in automatically on A Halloween Nightmare, and that's the title of the movie. I kind of shortened the title from Kirker Jazmine Bagel, A Halloween Nightmare, to just the plain A Halloween Nightmare. And it took me almost a year to refine it, because what I wanted to do was create a roller coaster effect where the audience connected with the inner turmoil that some of these characters were having when they met the antagonists, and they learned to work out their problems and just become better dogs, better individuals. And they did this because they saw that the antagonist perspective was very valid. And so more specifically, what I mean by that was the antagonist was Tricky, learned that her anger toward the characters was valid because she thought that the characters ran in front of her husband's train and caused him to have a lot of disabilities. And so her anger just grew and grew and grew, and then was included her friends, and through discussions, and it just finally at the end it was resolved. So
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Wonderful. So that's one of the screenplays. You're also currently marketing another screenplay that you'd like to get picked up by a director or a producer.
Yes.
And I think it's Santa Chases Hot Dogs, right?
Yes, Santa Chases Hot Dogs.
I love the title.
Thank you. So it's the same kind of roller coaster ride for the characters. They're going through a transformation spiritually, and what a better time for the spiritual transformation than Christmas time, because they get a chance to see how families spend Christmas, and how the antagonist, which is Mr. Natcher, creates his own idea of trying to catch the dogs because they don't have dog tags, and then goes through a spiritual transformation of his own as he sees that his ideas were not correct, and he just goes through a transformation. So
wonderful, wonderful. Now, how do you envision these movies being produced? Would it be animation? Would it be live action with actors and real dogs? Or do you think animation works best for your imaginative world?
Well, that's a really good question. And here's where I think you would be really good in Santa Chases Hot Dogs. No, just simply because Matthew McConaughey did sing 1 and 2, right? He did
right.
Voices. And so I think that you would be great for actually, let me take that back, for actually A Halloween Nightmare, because you're the teacher, the influencer of how the characters should go and problem solve through some of the negative energies that they're experiencing, like a green finger pointing no, or shaking their finger no, or trying to come into the RV. So I think you would actually be really good at that.
Sounds good. Well, when it comes to casting,
it would be
you got to keep me in mind.
Animation, or actually, because this A Halloween Nightmare won Best American Screenplay, I thinking that Sparkle envisioned that with people, with humans,
Right.
with actors actually. So,
Wonderful. And-
so I think it's a combination of both.
right. And these awards are hard won and hard earned. I actually am a
Yep.
writer also. I submit to
Oh.
film contests all the time. To win is quite an honor. So a big congratulations to you on that
Thank
work.
you, thank you.
You sound like a busy lady between the foster children, the writing. Are you still working in the school system as well?
I'm trying to cut down to 5 days a week. I started last year, and 5 days a month. And so I really wanted to even reduce the 5 days, even though that's the minimum. So maybe just even volunteering, because I get a chance to meet children. And I just met a student, Omar Seabrook, who is creating some of the music for A Halloween Nightmare, and actually gave me his advice on one of the scenes in there, which I changed. So I really get a lot of resources from the kids. So it's really down to the wire in my choice, because we have an office here where we create, and we have a lot of the people that we've worked with making other contributions to our growth. So yes, it's going to be a hard choice.
Right, absolutely. And it's great being around children. When you're not around children a lot, and then you're around a child, you realize how magical children are.
It
because
is.
they
It is. It's magical.
really spark your heart. Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
they do. They spark my.
Absolutely. Tell me what's next for you. What do you envision down the road as you go along here as a author and a screenplay writer?
Well, we're working on our projects to help dogs that are in the
The kennels or the rescue shelters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, in the shelters. And then our global warming project, which will help all of mankind with cleaning the air. So we've got a system. We've worked with a teacher in one of the high schools, and so that's where we're going to focus our attention, after the sale of our screenplays.
Wonderful. Well, I wish you a lot of luck with the sale of that screenplay. It sounds like a notable work, and that listeners and viewers out there should take note of it. If you are looking for an interesting screenplay to develop, this is one of them. If you're a parent and looking for an interesting series of children's books, look no further than Irene Dolnick's series, Gert, Jazmine, and Bagel. You can find them on Amazon. You can download them on Kindle, or you can just buy the book and have the real paper in your hand as you sit by your child's bedside at night. Irene Dolnick, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's a true pleasure. And I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you until next on Spotlight.
Thank you.